to the past. My default is to see, how long has something been in our dietary past? How did we approach these things in our dietary past? And how is that different from today? And certainly, we could have an entire week on just nut and seed oils, but real quick, from my perspective, we have evidence for accessing marrow, which is an incredible, animal fat inside the bones of animals. It's nutritious, it's satiating, it's delicious when prepared properly. We have archaeological evidence for our ancestors intentionally accessing marrow from other animals for 3.4 million years. That's a long time. We have evidence now. There's a lot of controversy over when we think our ancestors started to hunt. I am of the camp that it began around 2 million years ago, at the same time we started controlling fire. At that moment, if we see a huge increase in body and brain size in our ancestors, and I believe that was supported from two different things happening. One is our ability to cook our food, which is in certain applications very freeing of nutrients for our bodies, right? And helps make some foods more nutrient dense. But the other thing that happens is the difference between scavenging and hunting is huge. Our ancestors, around 3.5 million years ago, up until they started to hunt, the only access to animals they had was through scavenging. So a predator would kill another animal on the savannah. The predator would rip that animal apart, gorge itself on the most nutritious, nutrient-dense, bioavailable parts, which are the bloods, the organs, and the fat, maybe eat some of the meat, go off and digest that food. And then during that period of time when the predator was resting or napping or digesting, it was a perfect time for all the scavengers to come in. So things like the ancestors, the buzzards and hyenas and that, but also our ancestors, when they started to make those tools, would run in and hack off pieces of meat, take the bones and all that. That was scavenging. When we start hunting, we're the predators, and it's a completely different system. We now have access to the most nutrient-dense bioavailable parts that the scavengers had taken for the million and a years half earlier. We get to eat the organs, the blood, and the fat. And we, again, in turn, we see this huge jump in body and brain size. And I'm convinced that a lot of it has to do with that fat. Animal fats have been in our diets literally for millions of years. Nut and seed oils have been in our diets for a little bit over 100 years, right? So, and if you look at the correlation between, and I'm sure you know this, and your listeners know this, but obesity, coronary heart disease, even cancer rates, as we start consuming more and more nut and seed oils, they go hand in hand, and some of it, you can look at the data and figure out several different things for yourself. But there's no doubt that animal fats have been in the diet forever. We start taking them out, replacing them with something else, and it's wreaking havoc not only on our own bodies but also on the environment. As we're literally throwing away animal fat, we're raping the environment for nut and seed oils with all sorts of byproducts from that industry, and it's a huge problem.